Hello, I'm Jackie Malloy, and welcome to this free webinar for Meaningful Aging Australia. As we begin today's session, let's first acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands where we are gathering. Our team live and work on Wurundjeri land of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to elders past and present and acknowledge the spiritual strength and resilience of Australia's First Peoples and their deep and enduring connection to country, the land, the sky, and the water, and the animals who live there. Welcome. Today, our special guest is Dr. Tricia King, a researcher in participant-driven projects for wellbeing that are underpinned by friendship and reciprocity. She focuses on creative engagement with older people through photographic and related creative practices. And she's going to talk to us today about photography as a meaningful activity and meaningful connection to time, place, and environment, slowing down and seeing the world differently. Welcome, Tricia. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's lovely to see so many people on the webinar. I'm just going to share my screen now, and then I'll get started with you. Let's go into presenter view. Hopefully you can see my screen there and everything is good. So thank you so much today for Meaningful Aging, for not only inviting me to share my work, but also for the incredible work that you do as well. I'm really thrilled to be sharing my work with you all. And I hope that you not only enjoy my presentation, but you're able to take away some very simple ideas to engage in photographic practices with the people that you support and you care for. I too would like to acknowledge the always owners on the land on which we are standing. I'm here on Gubbi Gubbi country on the beautiful Sunshine Coast. And look, what I always feel as a photographer is that it's really important that as I acknowledge country, I share an image by a First Nations photographer so that we can all actively listen to the voice and the concerns and show new audiences their work so that you might go and explore their work yourself. So this is an image created by the legendary Wayne Quillam. And of course, the work he creates is really important to the representation of older First Nations people. So please do go follow his Instagram because he's still very, very active. So a little bit about myself. I'm a documentary photographer turned academic, and I work with creative practices with older people, both living in community and those living in aged care as well. I'm a lecturer in photography at the University of the Sunshine Coast, and I've been creating photographs. It's been something I've been deeply passionate about since I was 8 years old. And I've been really fortunate to work in this field all of my life. And I'm now in that wonderful position of sharing the joy of photography with both my younger students that I teach at university, as well as the older adults that I work with. I'm truly blessed to be able to do that. And so I want to talk to you today about photographs, about creativity, and about creating meaningful engagement with the spaces that we inhabit. So connection to place and community and self are really critical to our overall well-being and our lived experiences. We know this through many studies of people of all generations. However, older adults often suffer this disconnect to one or many of these areas, which can lead to isolation, depression, and reduced activity. And they can be significant inhibitors to leading a happy older life. And indeed are some of the factors which may influence people no longer being able to age in their home or their community, and in turn deeply affects their outlook on life should they move to aged care. We do know that an engaged lifestyle is an important component of successful aging, and there is also significant associations and predictive relationships with well-being for older adults who are engaged in social, leisure, and productive activities. And look, there are many, many excellent programs and activities which provide immediate relief from isolation and depression. The key here, however, is to find a way to make long-lasting and transformative impact to a way a person sees and their overall outlook on life beyond that structured activity. And creative practice is particularly well positioned to do this as it draws so much of the personal, the experienced, the lives and the lives of the people, which is then embedded in the artwork that they create. And you can see on screen my friend Eric here, quite proudly sharing a photograph that he created. It was accompanied by a story about when he used to work in agriculture and forestry and could name all of the plants. So let's quickly look at creative activities themselves first. Art and creativity can be a pretty powerful tool in our aging toolkit. Engaging in creative pursuits confers a variety of benefits for the health and well-being of people across their life course, and it stands to reason this is particularly important as we age. And there's a shift now towards a recognition of the arts in being able to play a key role in active aging. And active aging is about potential. It's about participation. And for older people, creativity can form part of a person-centered, holistic care model, which can complement clinical care by addressing the emotional, the psychological, and the cultural aspects of care and support. And when we talk about creativity in aging environments, be it community or residential aged care facilities, we tend to think of creativities as this structured activity scheduled in the monthly calendar where residents can opt in or opt out as they see fit. Like this painting session, which you can see on screen, or a sing-along activity or dance and craft. And they are all really, really valuable parts of a creative program and a creative life. And importantly, these creative activities strive to be meaningful activities. And I use the term meaningful activities in this context as defined by a theoretical framework proposed by Laura Tierney and Elizabeth Beattie across a number of papers. So they propose 6 defining attributes of meaningful activity for older people. An activity was suited to the individual, is engaging, enjoyable, goal-related, linked to identity, and social. And they discuss this particularly in relation to people living with dementia, but this framework, I think, provides a robust examination of meaningful activity for all older people living with or without a dementia diagnosis. Engagement in activity needs to be driven by a desire to participate, and making the activity accessible, relevant, and enjoyable is of much greater value than activities positioned just to simply occupy time. And as part of this study, Tierney and Beattie discussed some of the barriers to participation in activities around physical and cognitive abilities, abilities which were perceived as infantilizing participants, activities which had a perceived level of skill required to undertake, and activities which were perceived as pointless and had no outcomes. And they found that participating in activities which were personally meaningful had much greater impact on quality of life than more frequent participation in activities which were not quite considered as meaningful. So following this framework, I argue that photography can be considered a meaningful activity for older people. It can be one which is individual, it's engaging, it's enjoyable, it's goal-related, it's linked to identity and mindset, and it's inherently social. And look, the tools we have to create photographs are now more accessible than ever before. Photography as an activity has become removed from this need to have specialist equipment. Now that we have phones, iPads, and tablets, we all have the ability to create photographs. And with little exception, we all understand and have already engaged in the process of either creating a photograph, being in a photograph, and seeing a photograph. So even the most senior people we engage with understand this framework. And unlike other activities, there is little perceived skill required. And look, I say this firmly with my tongue in my cheek as a professional photographer, but you don't need to feel like you're creative, which is often a barrier for people in creative activities. I don't know how to paint. I'm not a creative person. I don't like singing. I don't have a good voice. Look, these barriers are generally removed by photography because photography can be done by anyone. And it can be observational, it can be deeply personal, it can be engaged with on many different levels. So one of my projects, Creativity and Movement, was established by myself and colleagues to be one of those accessible and meaningful activities, which enabled participants to come together, be creative, share stories, and make connections. But we've already started to see some really transformative outcomes beyond the structured activity that I'll talk to shortly. So once a week for an hour, we bring together these small groups and we go on photo walks. And these walks are designed to get people up and out of their house, creative and active. We all have cameras. We go on this walk together and we create photographs and we move and we share experiences together. So it's grounded in friendship as method, which is a term coined by Lisa Tillman Healy around 2003, which requires this radical reciprocity, and it moves from studying them to studying us. It removes these hierarchies of researcher and research, and it becomes about sharing. And sharing means inclusion, and inclusion is really important for people who might be marginalized or isolated or feeling like they don't have a voice. We become together. So Friendship as Method uses friendship as this collaborative tool to create. And this is the basis of everything that I do. And you can already see this is starting to move beyond a structured activity towards a lifestyle shift, a crew even. You can see on screen, there are some participants, there's a researcher, there's a service provider, there's a daughter, and normally there's even a minibus driver or someone else from our partner organisation who gets the camera too. Everybody is included. So the first iteration we did of this project was run in aged care, a space which in itself is often a difficult space for many people as it's their uncomfortable new home. But it's a space they often hasn't chosen themselves to go to or selected themselves. And there can be this disconnect between the person and the place in aged care. So we were hoping we could use the project to help people explore the quiet beauty in the spaces and see their home through a different lens. So when we undertook this project in aged care, we walked around the gardens each week, and many of these people hadn't been outside for quite a while because they had no real purpose for going outside. Even when we worked inside and we looked at something, for instance,
Who
patterns
wants to watch it?
and things like that. We had one participant say that she would lie in bed at night and think about all the wonderful patterns that she'd previously overlooked, which she'd like to photograph. She went down to the dining room the next day and said she'd never seen her space through these eyes before. It was a whole new room now that she'd learnt to see it differently. And that was the start of us realizing that we could actually change the way people see. So I'm going to do a short little video from two of our aged care participants, Joyce and Kathleen. And you can hear they are starting to talk not only about the activity we were doing, but the way it had changed the way that they see.
I thought my life was over. And when you and Dan came along, you gave me new life. It was just marvellous. The friendship from yous both. Dan and I clicked and you clicked and we had a lovely time and I loved taking the photos. Now, instead of me just thinking here and moping, I sit here now and think, oh, I could take one of that, I could photo this and I look forward to the next day. Not only that, it's sort of brought a few of us here more together because they want to know what we're doing and how we're going, and I've showed a lot of them on photos. So it's given me a new lease of life and given me something to think about.
Well, the benefit I've got is the enjoyment. I'm meeting more people. I'm seeing places in here that I've never seen before. But to me, it's brought on a whole new way of looking at life, actually. And taking more interest in life, I suppose.
I thought
Taking more interest in life is a powerful statement from Kathleen. Watching these residents explore their space and see their home through that different lens of photography was wonderful. They saw small moments, they saw beauty in the everyday, they appreciated colour and light and form, and they were proud of their home and proud of the photographs we'd give them back in print each week. One resident started displaying the photographs on her door and the doors of those who passed would comment on them. She devised this plan whereas she would wheel herself around in her wheelchair, including to some residents that she hadn't spoken to before, and ask them if they wanted some of her photographs on their door. So she'd take her box of photographs and she'd let them choose, and then from her wheelchair, she'd wheel herself up and stick them up. And you can see they're all quite crooked here because she's been doing it, reaching up in from her wheelchair. She told me that some of these people weren't lucky like her and they couldn't go outside. So she wanted to bring the outside inside to give these photographs to others to help them connect with place, just as she'd done. So she felt all the joy of giving, all the pride of creating, and all the love of sharing. Our second and third iteration of the project was people living in community who were transported to a central location by our partners Comlink Australia, but also having access to transportation means we could do field trips also. Here are some of the wonderful images from the participants, and you can see the care and attention to image creation, the mindfulness of their photographic practice and their ability to notice these small moments of joy, like tire tracks or shadows or juxtaposing colours, because that's what photography is really good for. It makes you slow down, it makes you notice, it makes you consider. And that's what I love about photography. It's a wonderful way to move through life. You know, life doesn't have to be about these big moments. It can be simple as those orange flowers against a clear blue sky. And this act of walking together and looking for photographic moments served to deepen our awareness to surroundings, but it also encouraged individual identity and vision while we were having this collective experience. The photo walks became a multisensory embodied experience and a way to engage with the surroundings. And the lasting impact of this is that our participants see differently. They see the environment around them. They don't just look at it. The world's no longer a place to rush through, but it's now filled with small, meaningful moments which inspire new associations and open up new worlds. These changes in mindset inform our everyday practices, which shape our relationship to the world. And being with the world and focusing on this act of seeing makes the everyday familiar become new and rediscoverable. And our participants have told us that they take joy in seeing things that nobody else sees. And these little moments of joy and discovery are as simple as lines and patterns, or shadows and sky, or the joy of friends. And many of the participants keep in touch with each other, and all of the participants we know continue to create photographs. And I should mention briefly that at the end of each session or the start of the next one, we come together to share our photographs. It's really important to talk about our shared but unique vision. And all of our projects involve a final exhibition to share this work with others. I'll play a couple of minutes of another short video, and then I'll come back and talk about photo elicitation. But this is from one of our field trips with our into the the Mullaney Mary Cairncross, I think it was.
Good morning. Hello. Hi, everyone.
Because I'm alone now, except for my little dog, I do like to go out and socialize with people, and I like to meet new people and get new ideas from them and that sort of thing. So yeah.
I'd say botanical gardens because that's my area. In one word, amazing. It means you can get out of the house, you meet people, you learn something and you see something different every day. This is around it and see what enhances the photograph rather than just an object, just to have a scene rather than just a thing. I like any group of people. I think since the death of my wife, I think I've been lonely, and getting out just makes life so much more bearable, interesting. Got him. Looking at me. Worried about the cup, but it's half full and filling, so I'll just continue on like that.
As soon as I saw the word photo, I thought, that's me. I love taking photos. I like the nature photos, particularly the close up and the colour. I just love it. And the contrast, finding photos that sit together because they contrast. Project has opened my eyes up more to look around, not only looking for sunrises and sunsets, looking down and looking up, and just seeing my surroundings differently.
I think my favourite moment is actually nothing to do with photography, but it was when we were at Mary Cairncross Park and we were in the rainforest. And I got a little tired, so I said to everybody, I'm going to sit down for a while. And I sat on my walker and everybody else had moved away. And I just absorbed the sound of the birds and the nature, and it was a wonderful moment. Almost a meditation moment. It's been great. I've enjoyed meeting new people and going to places I wouldn't have thought of going to before. And it's just given me a little new lease on life. I've enjoyed looking at my environment in a different manner, in a different way. In great improvement. I have trouble walking, as you can see, but I'm able to walk a little bit further because when we walk on the photo walks, we walk a fair distance. And yeah, it's been an improvement. Really happy with that. Not the way that everything that falls is reused by nature.
I'll leave it there, but you can see that it's had a wonderful impact on the way that our participants feel about the world and the environment and how they can connect to it as well. And I think you'll get the link to the full video in the chat shortly. And look, I encourage you to start to notice these smaller moments with the people that you care for. Invite them to look for shadows or colors and start to really notice the small beauty in the world. And this can be done with or without a camera. Another way to engage people using photographic methods is through photo elicitation. And when you think about photographs, they're one of the few things which we take across our life course. We treasure them, we frame them, we stick them up, we put them in books, and we share our photographs. If our house was to burn down, I'd say one of the things people would run to the first is their photographs, although I guess now it's hard drives. And when you enter people's rooms in aged care, they will have photographs there. They will have brought them photographs with them, and they will have selected them and curated the images on display for a reason. And I invite you to really go in and talk to people about their photographs. I hold photo elicitation sessions where, as a lifestyle activity designed to increase socialization, where residents are asked to bring in an image from their room to share. I saw this as a zero cost activity for lifestyle coordinators to run, as the residents had all the tools they already need. You can see in the image here, one lady brought her photo album in and found a friend who eagerly wanted to chat about every image. Now, these two hadn't talked before, but they both liked to travel, and they started to say hello and chat more. And after this session, they eventually asked to sit together at lunch. The images gave them this common point to talk to. There was a connection to be made through the mutually understood image. And photographs tell stories, and where they're displayed or how they're displayed is an important part of that. So it may not be your role as a researcher or a carer as not to embed photographic methods in your work per se, but I ask that every time you enter a person's room, know what is on display has been purposely put there. We share images to share our stories, and generally we'd like to share our stories. So if you ask, you'll find out so much more about a person. The narrator would love to tell you about their story. Please take a second to ask, as it will break down the barriers between you both. And look, the final thing I wanted to share before I close is a project which I'm running called Picture Yourself. And it's a project which will co-design and co-produce authentic images of older adults for a freely available image library. The current images of older people in the media are very stereotypical, and this is damaging to both self-perception of aging, but also to a younger audience too. So I'll be training older photographers and models to create authentic images which can be used in the media. It's an exciting project, and I'm running a survey which I'd love for you to fill out, which talks to the existing images, but also poses the question, where are the gaps? I'm also starting to recruit photographers and models, so I'd love for you to get in contact if you have any interest or suggestion. And again, I think this the link to this is being put in the chat. So look, we've explored some quite simple and easily implementable ideas today about how to use creative practice and photography to connect to both people and to place. I thank you again for your time. I hope that you found something to take away from this talk. Thank you so very much.
Oh, Tricia, thank you. That was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
I just want to get your pin back so that I can, there you are, so that we're both on the screen there. Look, as always, I'm madly scribbling notes. There was so many great things. Of course, I love the meaningful activity frame that you talk through. We've come across that before, of course, at Meaningful Aging, but it's lovely to see it pop up in another way. And I think there was just so much in there, moments of joy and discovery. Yeah.
And simple moments as well. I think that's what I love is this whole, it's a different way of thinking. It doesn't require resources. It just requires being present and talking and listening. So my PhD was actually called Listening with Images, because I think that's how we use images, is we use
Yeah, right.
them as well.
And I mean, as one of the women who were talking said, she looks up and she looks down. And I think that's, you know, I remember being in the city one day, and for some reason I looked up, and I realized in looking up, I hardly ever look up in the city. But suddenly the edifice of buildings, the way buildings were shaped and decorated suddenly came into view. And I still don't know what drew me there, but it made me realize I don't look up. So just that simple statement of I look up and I look down, I thought was really quite profound.
And even the perspective of someone who's creating a photograph from a wheelchair is a different perspective from somebody who is mobile
Right.
and walking around. So
Yeah.
being able to express these different perspectives and different opinions, I think is really wonderful, especially if you go on like a photo walk and you're all going to the same places, but you have your own unique way of approaching. And that comes from, you know, your background, how you were brought up, what you choose to see, what you encourage
Yeah.
others to see. So it's a really individualized, it really allows you to see the
Mm.
individual and the person within that.
I think too, you know, just that notion of individuals seeing differently, even while they're having a collective experience. Really, really great. Yeah. I'm going to ask people if they would like to ask Tricia a question or make a comment, something that was meaningful for you while listening to Tricia and thinking about today's subject. While you're having a thought about what question you might like to ask or comment you'd like to share, I'll just read this out from Glenda. This is fabulous. I realize my privilege of being able to take photos so easily on my iPhone, and never occurred to me that others may not have this, and that it can be turned into a very successful activity in aged care. I would find it hard to live without being able to take photographs. Okay, Luella has a question, Tricia. How do you explain how seeing the world differently impacts well-being? Is it about being connected to something bigger?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Luella. It really has, I mean, we've had a number of benefits that we've been able to see simply around being up and walking. We heard Beryl talk about that she is now able to walk, and she was telling us that she now has the confidence to walk her dog. If you ask somebody to go out and do half an hour of exercise, they probably wouldn't, but we were getting a lot of exercise through that. So we have those physical well-being. We have emotional and psychosocial well-being as well, and socialization. So we found from these projects that a lot of people have come to us from maybe recently losing a partner or being a care partner. And we find, I've had a lot of people say, I've been taking care of somebody else for so long, I don't even know what I enjoy anymore. And so they come to us and they connect with other people. And that's the beautiful thing about photographs, is they give you something concrete that's in the image. So if you bring a photograph of a dog, everyone will talk about their dogs. It doesn't matter that it's not their dog in the image. So that ability to be able to connect as well. We have fortnightly sessions now. So when my creativity and movement project stopped, it was the end of its 10 weeks, everybody said, I don't want this to stop. And so I said, well, let's not. And so they come onto campus to our makerspace every fortnight, and we just hang out and do creative activities together. We 3D print, we go on photo walks, we do all sorts of things like that. And the thing I've been noticing now is that people are meeting each other outside of me. So the big thing I can do is not be the anchor to these projects as a professional photographer, is to make these connections. I've just had 2 people go on a holiday together, so they've found friendship through this. I've just learnt that 2 of them are dating as well, so I'm interested.
Oh, wow.
So Tricia King dating service. But having that ability to connect to a group, I think, is really, really important. And having a photograph that you talk to means there's no right or wrong. You're literally talking to what's in the frame, and what you bring to that is your level of comfort. So when we first started, we asked people to bring a photograph that they wanted to share, and everybody brought a landscape. And I thought that was really interesting, because I thought we'd see kids or dogs or things like that. And people started talking, and as they become more confident talking to us, we learnt that the landscape was actually the place that them and their partner used to go before they died. And so we got these beautiful stories, but if they weren't comfortable, they didn't have to tell us that. They could just say, I really enjoy the view here. But it enables you to talk at different levels to images too. So sorry, that was a long roundabout way of explaining that well-being, whilst, I do have a quantitative researcher working alongside us who's measuring wearing timed up and go and things like that. To me, it's the joy of everybody's faces, the confidence that they have and the social connection that really evidences the well-being.
Yes. Just a reminder, Marnie's put in the comments that we will be sending links out to Tricia's research when you get the replay next week. Some other information in there as well. Here's a comment. I love that it could help give people purpose and help them tune into the everyday beauty in the world. Thanks. Connection is so important no matter our age. So lovely to see the benefits of creativity, nature, and group engagement. Thank you, Tricia, for a great presentation. That's wonderful. If anyone else would like, if someone would like to come off mic, off mute and ask a question or make a comment, please do. Otherwise, of course, in the chat. We've officially ended, I think you'd say, at 1:31. We've officially gone over, as is our wont. But if there are any other questions or comments, really happy just to take them.
And please do feel free to email me as well. One of the links you'll get is to my university profile, which has not only my papers, but it has a link to contact me. So I'm always happy. You could get the hint. I could talk about this forever and ever. So please do reach out if you want to chat further.
Oh, that's so generous. Thank you. Most residents love talking about their family photos. Yeah. Yeah.
Really.
This was a great presentation, and I will follow up with an event for my cohort. I'm off to buy a camera. Thank you. Thanks for an inspiring talk. Do they all need to provide their own cameras?
No, most people will have a mobile phone, and in aged care they will have some iPads as well. I usually come with a suite of phones, of little cameras as well, just to make it a more of a kind of camera activity rather than just the phones. But also, you know, you just need photographs as well, or you just need to go outside and walk and talk with people. It's just a change of mindset. I think the camera is just a tool to help facilitate that. Yeah, the cost of printing may be expensive. I've done printing, but I've also come back and immediately shared on a screen, and so that's a low cost. I've taught all of my participants how to airdrop as well to my computer, which they love doing, and they randomly just airdrop me all sorts of things all day long now. But you don't have to have printing. I just think it's a cohort, and I'm lucky enough that I have access to printing, but it's a cohort that does love physical objects as well.
Yes. Yeah. Airdropping sounds good. That's amazing. Can you teach me to airdrop?
And then you too can send photographs of sunrise to my computer every morning. I have a gentleman that sends me a photograph of sunrise every single morning. And he wakes up and he sends me an email, and we've become friends on Facebook, and he sends me sunrise and says, "Life is good," every single morning. And I just think that's beautiful.
Oh, well, I think that's the note to end on, actually.
Yeah. Life is good.
That's so good. Life is good. Life is good. Oh, all right. That's what I needed to hear today. Thank you. That was terrific, Tricia. I think we're going to have you back to dive into this again and hear more from some of the participants, because that was really wonderful to hear from them.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. There's thank yous coming in. And you have our thanks as well. Thank you, everybody, for being here today and for listening to this wonderful, wonderful webinar with Dr. Tricia.